Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the December 4th meeting of the Rochester Planning Commission to order. And Jeremy, please call the roll.
McGee,
Yes, here.
Hauser,
Here.
Vixen,
Here.
Sage, Gasson, Kenjuk,
Here.
King, Lloyd,
Here.
Stone.
Very good. I understand we have a couple members who are ill this evening.
Councilman Sage has stepped down, so.
So effective already, he's, okay,
So
good,
Mr. Hauser is here as a councilperson.
very good.
Correct, and now there is a opening for a citizen member on the planning commission now.
Okay, very good. So we're online and on the air, and if anyone has leanings in that area among the citizenry, please feel free to contact the mayor. We'd love to hear from you, and if you have a special interest in being on this commission, now's the time to speak up. Okay, join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First order of business is public comment, and I'd ask if anyone in the audience, particularly on items not later on the agenda, has any public comment. And Rose, are you with us?
I am. There is no one waiting online.
Thanks, Rose, I appreciate that. Anyone for public comment at this point? Okay, thank you. Next is the approval of the minutes, consideration of the minutes and approval of October 16th, 2023. I'd ask if the commissioners have all had a chance to look these over and if there are any changes or amendments. Hearing none, does someone want to make a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by the mayor. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by by Rich down here at the end. Jeremy, the roll call.
McGee,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Vixen,
Yes.
Kenjuk,
Yes.
Lloyd.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. No public hearings tonight. Number 6, consideration to approve the 2024 Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Come on up. You're going to take care of that for us. You would introduce yourself again?
Yes, sir. My name is Alexis. I have been working with Jeremy. I'm from McKenna. We've been working on updating Rochester's Park and Recreation Master Plan, which I believe has come to you. This will be the 3rd time. So since the last time I was here, we had our 30-day public comment period in which we advertised to the public the plan and received some comments. So, you know, the biggest change that we had during that comment period was about the OPC and Social Activity Center. So they just recently went through a rebranding. We made sure all of that information was up to date. And we also got some feedback about interest in pickleball courts, which, you know, we talked a little bit about with Jeremy.
Pickleball, the rage.
Yes, it's all the rage these days. So, you know, we know that that's a growing interest and that we've noted that in the plan, but also have noted that there are a lot of differing interests in terms of where the parks and recreation are going in the next 5 years. So we've made those updates based on the feedback, and I'm now here tonight to ask that you make a recommendation that City Council adopt the plan. We are on the agenda for next week at City Council, and if it is adopted, we'll submit to the DNR, and then the city will be eligible for funding from the DNR for the next 5 years.
Where are you going to put the pickleball courts?
Well, that's what we'll figure out in the next 5 years.
So I can give you a quick update on that, which will take the pressure off us. So next to the old Rah-Rah building, they sold that to a guy that turned into a private basketball facility. Mm-hmm. And guess what that's going to turn into now? A pickleball facility.
They're not making it as private basketball?
Oh, I think he's going to turn it into all pickleball, which will be perfect.
Is that high enough to?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So it's, that's good.
Well,
I was
just going to say, that didn't last it very long, did it?
No, 6 months.
No, more than that. It's been about a year and a
Year.
half, almost 2 years, yeah.
You know, that's a big thing in Florida. Mayor and I were just talking about Florida, but private pickleball facilities are spreading like wildfire.
There's a whole bunch.
One just opened in Ann Arbor.
Exactly.
It's,
Shelby.
you can't even get a time. It's so crowded.
Yeah. So I think he'll have made a good choice.
I remember in the day it was
racquetball years ago.
racquetball, and then those took their way. It's a good sport, don't get me wrong, everybody can do it, and
The thing is, it's an older group, which is really good for society, that so many of us in that bracket are playing this.
It's good.
I have a cottage out near Chelsea on a lake, and 2 doors down, the guy's a contractor. He built a pickleball court on his property,
so,
and it's changed the whole neighborhood.
yeah, since we're talking about this, so.
It was like opening a bar.
Yeah, no, so a couple things, we're very cognizant of where, it's gonna be tough in the city to put them because outside, because of that noise. So we actually tell people they can't play here because people in the apartments and the houses complain, but, my wife plays with her sister, and on my driveway up north at the cottage is the exact width of the court, and they make you just put down temporary striping, a little net that you can put them down, they play in my driveway. I'm like, I haven't played yet, but
And now the neighbors start gathering.
they all wanna they have their little.
That's how this is.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's a real thing. We'll address it at some point, but we're gonna be smart about it. OPC tried to get a grant for 4 outdoor courts, and they weren't acceptable on the first round, but that would be perfect up there because you wouldn't bother anybody. It was in the back, and they were gonna put 4 outdoor courts on it. So they're gonna keep trying for that grant.
Good. Maybe they can find a benefactor. Okay, sorry about the divergence there.
That's fine.
Anything of note that you've learned during this experience that the planning commissioners would find of value?
Oh, man. Well, this was my first project as a project manager in my role at McKenna, so I've definitely learned a lot just in terms of my day-to-day and being a project manager, but I personally was not familiar with Rochester before working on this project, and I was just blown away by the facilities that you have here. So, you know, it's sometimes hard to write a plan about parks that is trying to say, hey, well, we need grant funding because our parks are, you know, this might be in disrepair or something like that, because you don't have that here in Rochester. You have really great facilities, so yeah, just been a great project to work on.
Very good.
If I may, a shout out to Jeremy, I'm sure will back me in this election. She did a great job for us. Great communicator, always kept us in the loop, made sure we didn't miss deadlines, so kudos to her. She's done a really good job. Last time it was really loose, and she's done a wonderful job. Would you concur, Jeremy?
Yeah, she's been great to work with. Definitely just telling me what I need to get her and then able to get it. So we have full confidence in this plan.
And I'd just like to say, well, thank you for the job you've done. I would just like to say we are a great city without pickleball courts, with tennis courts at the center of our park system. I'm just.
There's a bit of a bias.
I'm just saying.
It's a minor bias, but there's a bit of a bias. For those who don't know, Stuart played NCAA tennis at Michigan, so he's lived with it his whole life, and
But that has nothing to do with.
this is like the skiers versus the snowboarders.
Yeah, exactly.
The same basic thing, so what do you need of us?
So I believe Jeremy handed you a motion.
Okay. I should ask the commissioners, do you have any input on this? Oh, okay. We have a formal motion for someone who would like to make a motion.
I'd be happy to make a motion to recommend the Parks and Recreation Master Plan as presented in the December 4th, 2024 draft for adoption to the City Council. Noting that the Planning Commission does not have the results of the public hearing, but that all public comments submitted to date have been considered in this recommendation. So I make that
So moved.
motion.
And is there support?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Lohr. Any other discussion? The roll call, please.
McGee,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Vixen,
Yes.
Kenjuk,
Yes.
Lloyd.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. See you again someday, maybe in another role with McKenna. You never know. Okay, B, the Preserves Development, 100 Diversion Street, 110 and 100 South Street. Let me say that again. 100 Diversion Street, 110 and 100 South Street. Consideration of a special request and site plan review, request to set a public hearing date. Vidya, are you with us?
Yes.
That
Good
is
evening,
yours.
Chairman Meggie, members of the
evening.
commission. I will put the site plan up on the screen for you. This is the project that the Planning Commission has been seeing for a while. Just as a quick refresher, it is the site that is more commonly known as the Van Horn Trucking Facility. The site is about 5.5 acres in site, 5.05 acres in size, and is Zone I2 Industrial 2 District. The applicant is proposing a multiple family residential use. There are 2 apartment buildings with 36 units each. As such, the use at this time, based upon the site being zoned I2 industrial, requires special projects approval. The site is located within the special projects boundary as defined in our master plan. The Preserves project originally started in early 2021, and since then the applicant has gone through several iterations of the project. Their last presence before you was at your August 7th, 2023 meeting. At the time, the Planning Commission had lots of concerns regarding the site, not limited to on-site circulation, the position of the buildings, the architectural style of the buildings, and many other features. You had basically directed the applicant to go back, come with an improved design before you, and the applicant has submitted this new plan for consideration at this time. It is to be noted that in the master plan that was adopted by the city in April 2022, the site is designated as multifamily mixed residential. So technically, the applicant can ask for a rezoning to the master plan designation and develop this as a permitted use on the site. But at this time, it is I1, and they are requesting special projects consideration, not just for the use, but also for regulatory flexibility. Now, the letter that's in your packet from me is basically a summary of the main features of this project to help the Planning Commission initiate some discussion with the applicant and basically provide your feedback or how you would like to proceed next with the project. I'm going to summarize the main features of this project so it'll help in the discussion tonight. So the plan now involves 2 buildings, which previously they were placed in an L shape. If you remember, the Preserves South building was actually over here, and you entered the site with a vast parking area. The applicant has now moved it this way in order to prevent the creation of a big single facade or a mass as viewed from diversion. There are a total of 72 units within these 2 buildings, 36 units in each. The subject site comprises of 3 parcels that are under common ownership, and all of them will be combined as part of the approval process. The site does have a 60-foot wide cross-access easement that goes all the way and provides access to the parcel to the west. So at a future time, if the parcel to the west is developed, this access drive will likely be built upon whenever that happens. When the site proposal was developed, the applicant was asked to provide a detailed traffic study. Traffic in the First Street diversion area and South Street has always been a point of concern at the city. So the applicant did get a traffic study done by Fleece and Vanderbrink that is dated July 26th of 2023. As we have seen on other traffic studies, typically the level of service at every intersection near to a site, which is defined as LOS, it goes from a grade of A through an F. A being the best functioning intersection and F being a failed intersection, which basically is the timing it takes for a vehicle to actually get through that signal or light. Based upon the traffic study that was submitted, the trip patterns to and from the site, the Rochester Road and Diversion Street intersection, the westbound approach, currently functions at a level of service E. And once the site is built, it will continue to function at a level of service E, both in the AM and PM peak periods. In addition, the study shows that the level of service will change from B to C for the westbound South Street diversion intersection, and overall functioning of the Rochester Road Diversion Street intersection will go from a level of service A to a level of service B. Now, the study summarizes that the LOSE, basically at the intersection of Rochester Road and Diversion westbound, can be addressed by changing signal timings. But the problem with changing signal timings would be what the domino effect would be for other intersections further up and down Rochester Road, because when you change the signal timing on one light, it is going to have an effect on the other lights that are ahead of it and behind it. So at this time, according to the traffic study presented by the applicant, the recommendation is that the existing road network is sufficient to accommodate the trips generated by the site and no mitigation measures are recommended. So since this is a pretty important issue, this is something that I would like the Planning Commission to discuss today further and ask the applicant any questions you might have to get the answers that you would like to hear. Previously, the level of parking, if you remember, the last iteration of this plan had entry and exit, a one-way circulation plan on the underside of the building. Now the buildings are placed in such a manner that you enter and exit off one side itself. The lower level is completely for parking, and it is designed in a manner that will accommodate 2 rows of parking and a center turn aisle. In a memo dated September 23rd, the fire chief has indicated his approval for the circulation on the site. Based on the ordinance's parking standards, the site has 24 one-bedroom and 48 two-bedroom apartments, which would require a total of 132 parking spaces. The site is showing a total of 134 spaces, 50 of which are in the interior, 25 on the lower level of each building, and 84 spaces are on the exterior. Now, on the interior of the building, they do have designated space for motorcycle parking and also internal bike parking. If you notice this here, there is internal bike parking. However, the set that is submitted by the applicant includes floor plan for the building that is labeled north. I just want to make sure that the floor plan for both buildings on the ground level is identical. Since the building is labeled north, it should be north and south if the floor plan is the same for both buildings. In front of each building is a pickup ride-share parking spot, one in front of each building. This is for Uber or any other ride-share service that people need. So the applicant is designating a spot for that. The site is to be illuminated with several light poles, which are 14 feet tall and decorated with downward directed light fixtures, and several bollard lights that will be placed along the north side of the property to provide illumination, which is more architectural to enhance the site. Moving on to page, the site, because of the grade and the slope changes down to Clinton River, it's got an extensive system of, if I could just move to that sheet, I will show you, it's got an extensive system of retaining walls. These retaining walls are anywhere from 1 to 4 feet tall on the north side of the site and up to 5 to 6 feet tall on the west side of the site that abuts the detention pond. We had previously asked the applicant to show us what this retaining wall or boulder wall is going to look like. And these are the samples that the applicant has shown as to what that wall is going to be constructed of. The plan also notes, I will go back to the site plan so the Planning Commission can see. The plan also notes that there will be a 2-foot 3-inch boulder wall on 2 sides of the detention pond. So basically on this side and this side of the pond is going to be a 2-foot 3-inch boulder wall. Now this pool is designed with standing water of 3 feet, and it's also going to be provided with fountains, which sometimes can be an attractive nuisance if there are younger children. There is no fence that is proposed around the boulder wall. So basically there is a taller retaining wall that restricts the parking area from the detention pond. But on these 2 sides, it's merely the 2-foot 3-inch boulder wall. And there is no other barrier between the wall and the pond itself. I want to make sure that when this is reviewed for engineering, or even before that, if the applicant can tonight address if there is something in the detention pond slope design itself that would ensure that it does not become a safety hazard. The plan also shows a crushed gravel drive. I will take you to the landscape plan. The plan also proposes to develop the frontage along Clinton River as an amenity. There is a crushed gravel drive that is proposed as a river walk on the north side of the site, and that will be going as a loop on the south side of the property. I don't know if it's visible on this, but my cursor is moving on the loop. This is the loop that the applicant has shown. Previously, it had a dead end at this end, and the Planning Commission asked the applicant to make this into an amenity that is actually usable. So the applicant has now on this revised plan showed that the river walk actually would loop around this end of the detention pond and go on the south side and connect back to the sidewalk system along diversion. So the river walk would be a complete circle around the entire property. The biggest concern the last time the Planning Commission had on this project was the architecture. The fact that the building quality and the architecture did not keep up with the standards that the Planning Commission expected to see for a site. There was minimum amount of masonry proposed for the building, and the applicant was asked to consider incorporation of more masonry. So the revised plan at this time includes a lot more brick on the facade. It also includes hardy board panels between the windows, these areas, and it also includes composite longboard siding, which the applicant at the previous meeting explained as being steel siding with the appearance of wood. So the building top is provided with an aluminum coping, and the applicant has created a roof height variation. Previously, it was a single flat roof appearing, which the Planning Commission did not find attractive. So the applicant has created a little bit of a jog in the roof line in order to provide for some breakup on the facade. All of the balconies are also shown with railings. The east facade of both of the north building and the south building is this facade. This is what will be seen when you first enter the site of diversion. While the applicant has revised it in order to include a lot more brick on it, it still has a lot of narrow band of windows. We believe some of the size of the windows may be dictated based upon the functionality of the inside floor plan, based upon where the staircases and other things are located. But we also suggest that the applicant consider maybe some other detail, maybe using brick of two contrasting colors to create some visual relief in a wall, because this is basically a pretty large mass with small narrow band of windows which are not in scale with the facade size when you compare it to the size of windows on this facade. So that is something up for discussion at the Planning Commission meeting tonight, and the applicant has stated that they would be presenting their take on the building architecture for the Planning Commission's benefit tonight. The applicant has submitted a 3D simulation of this whole site, which they can present. A copy of a phase 1 and phase 2 environmental study for this project has also been submitted. As the Planning Commission is familiar, this is a brownfield site, which has got previous contamination and is being cleaned up. For the applicant, since this is a special project, it needs to demonstrate public benefit. What does the project contribute back to the city that goes above and beyond just a regular site plan in order to justify a deviation from the strict applications of the ordinance? For the applicant, the public benefit is the removal and rehabilitation of a blighted site, provision of new, what the applicant calls affordable housing option, and preservation of 50% open space. As a special project, the applicant was required to complete a sustainability evaluation worksheet. This site was scored in the column that is a site that is not, that is a residential development that is not located within the DDA but impacts the DDA. So out of the 20 points that they could possibly score per their self-evaluation, they have scored a total of 15 on 20 points, which makes the project just sustainable.
Vidya, do you have the sustainability sheet available to put up?
Unfortunately, the applicant did not submit a full sustainability new evaluation worksheet in this set. It was submitted in the previous set with an explanation. The applicant might be able to go over it in their presentation, Chairman McGee.
Thank you.
The thing that I did want to point out is 2 of those points that they have given themselves include points related to intersection delay and trip generation. So based upon the Planning Commission's feedback on the traffic study or the traffic impact study done for the site, those points may be impacted. So the applicant's presentation will provide determination whether the actual points for those indicators are met or not, or if additional mitigation measures are required to make the project truly sustainable.
Thank you.
So at this time, this project is before you for the applicant to present their new proposal. The last time they were before you, you had the applicant redesign the entire site. They are before you tonight for feedback, and if the Planning Commission finds the project as presented to be satisfactory, for it to be scheduled for a public hearing at your next available agenda. I would be happy to answer any questions the Planning Commission may have.
Do the commissioners have questions for the planner? Eric?
Regarding the RM2 zoning district, and as compared to this plan was being proposed, given that the special projects allow some flexibility, right, within the zoning ordinance, what are the specific deviations that they're asking for with this plan as compared to a straight zone plan?
We have not reviewed the proposal to see how it compares to a traditional RM2 zoning, because under the master plan designation, it is RM2 or mixed residential. Both those districts have slightly different requirements. I have not evaluated the project to see if it is strictly developed, what would happen, because at this point of time, the applicant is in a position where they are seeking approval for the entire use itself. But should the Planning Commission want me to, I can always provide that analysis by comparing what if it was developed truly under the current zoning versus what deviations they would be seeking. The applicant may have a summary of that, Mr. Lord, as to in which ways they are seeking to differentiate from any of the fixed requirements of the RM2/mixed residential district.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if there was additional density being proposed with this plan that maybe wasn't.
Biddy, I think it's important that the commission see that. Because I think it has to be first evaluated as it's zoned, as it's currently zoned, before we evaluate it as a change zone.
So, Mr. McGee, the challenge is currently it is zone I2, industrial. So under the present zoning, they cannot develop it unless they come out the special projects route. The only way to develop is either to get it rezoned to the master plan designation, for which the district is not yet fully in place because it has gone through the Planning Commission, but not yet through the City Council. So at this point of time, if the applicant seeks a rezoning, we first need to get the new district in place so that they can develop it based on the new district requirements.
So we're back to
Or
the issue
special
of not
projects.
having.
So right now it is
published.
I2.
If I could.
Please.
On the site plan page, there is a comparison that I see. There's a table that compares some of the setback requirements under I2 and under
Yeah.
the residential district. So there is some level of comparison here. I just didn't know if Vinnie had a chance to look at. I mean, that's some of the information, but I don't know if there was others in the zoning ordinance that allows flexibility to the density that's applied here or anything like that, so.
The challenge we struggled with this project is the fact that it is at a time and place where the use that they're proposing is in keeping with what the master plan envisions for this area. However, we didn't review it based on that district regulations because those regulations are not yet adopted. So until it is adopted, it would be premature for me to say, yes, they meet exactly what the master plan district recommends for this area, because until the council actually adopts it and it becomes effective, those are still merely recommendations. So we had to look at it from a standpoint that what the current zoning is, and the current zoning on this parcel is I2.
Nick, when might that be adopted? Right, we've been talking about this for,
Maybe a long time, so.
yeah, I got it. Christian?
Really quickly, I don't know if this is a question for video or for Nick or Jeremy. This retention pond, does it have to have any type of fencing around it, or I don't know if that's required?
Yeah, I would just point to our pond outside here. So
Okay.
I think video is talking about, our pond has a slope to it, so they can talk about
Yeah.
that. So if somebody stepped into it, you're not going in. Our pond's 8 feet deep, so.
Okay.
This is 3 feet, so
That's
I don't think they're gonna need a fence around
I
it.
just, because I saw a fence here and I wasn't sure, so that's fine.
All right. Okay, Vidya, anything else?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I think the applicant would like to present their case, their architecture, and how they have revised this plan in response to the concerns that the Planning Commission previously raised.
So the applicant, who will be representing.
Can I ask one quick question?
Please, Mr.
Is, and it may be in the is there going to be a picture from what it's going to look like from?
You're going to show all the.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Spray. NVIDIA, thank you. My name is Jim Epping. I'm representing tonight Joe
Jim.
Lachurko,
Welcome.
who is obviously a longtime resident and businessman in the community, and we're thrilled to be here. I have 2 points of question, I guess, for the chair. Number one, with the few members missing tonight, just for point of procedure, if you were to consider a motion to move to a public hearing, just out of curiosity, what is the quorum or what type of vote is needed?
We have a quorum of 5, and all 5 would have to vote.
So it would have to be unanimous
Yes.
vote for the members here tonight.
Yes.
Thank you. The other point is that the second or the third, I guess, agenda item tonight is another project called 210 Diversion, which is immediately next door and is also one of Joe and his team's projects. We have a video and some technology that'll show what really the entire campus or new neighborhood will look like.
That would be very helpful to us.
My question would be, would it be appropriate, I'll leave it to you, if perhaps Vidya wants to go through her review on that so that you've got, kind of the full spectrum, because my presentation kind of dovetails both of those projects, highlights them individually, but kind of shows how 1 + 1
What do the
equals 3.
commissioners think? Would it be better to go through it and then we'll talk
I think so.
globally? Okay, we agree. So Vidya,
Okay, I'll sit down then and we'll.
why don't you go ahead with that? This would be item 6C, 210 Diversion Development, consideration of special project and site plan review.
Sounds good. I shall go ahead and review the plan. If you'd give me a second, I will put up 210 Diversion's site plan on the screen. So as Mr. Epping explained, this site is immediately to the east/southeast of the preserves, and it is located right at the curve of Diversion Street. The proposal is, although Mr. Lachurko is overall party to both of the projects, this project is represented by another LLC called 210 Diversion LLC. The proposal is to construct a 4-story, 21-unit, multiple-family residential building. Now, the site is located on the curve of Diversion Street, and it is actually a split-zone parcel, which is zoned O2 restricted office and I2 industrial district. There is, I'm not sure where exactly on this, I'm unable to see right now, but the applicant can point out where the split-zone line is, but this is a split-zone property. I can pull up the zoning map when Mr. Epping is presenting to show you where the division line lies. So, like in the case of the preserves, residential uses are not permitted in the I2 district. Upper story apartments are permitted as a special exception in the O2 district by the zoning ordinance. Due to the split zone nature of the parcel and the fact that the use is allowed in a portion of it and not in another portion, the applicant is seeking special projects approval in order to make it into a single cohesive project. And like in the previous project, the preserves, this site also is master planned as multiple family mixed residential use. Now, this project appeared before the Planning Commission a long time ago in November 2020. I don't know if the Planning Commission remembers, at the time, this was a 5-story, 41-unit multiple family residential building. There was a lot of discussion on the project at that time, but no action was taken. And subsequently, because of the pandemic, I believe supply chain issues and the cost of construction, that project never moved forward. So at this time, the applicant has come up with a newer proposal, which is scaled down a little bit, fewer stories and lesser number of units. It went from a 5-story to a 4-story building, and from 41 units down to 21 units. Now, some of the key features of this project are, this is a small parcel. It's very unusual in that the right-of-way of diversion jogs in like this. So this site technically has got frontage onto diversion, but this is actually part of the public right-of-way. It's a very, very unusual configuration that we don't typically see. The subject site also includes the small rectangular parcel that projects into the city of Rochester Hills. The reason I mentioned this rectangular parcel is because the applicant is considering this parcel as part of their proposal at this time to account for the provision of open space. If the site were to be viewed just as this rectangle without this piece, the site is being built upon approximately 96%. The addition of this parcel reduces the amount of built area and actually creates some open space for this project. Because the construction of the building goes right up to the property line, in order for this structure to be built, some grading will have to take place on the abutting property of the preserves. And the applicant has delineated this line, which basically shows the limit of grading and an easement being provided for the same. There is a single access drive of diversion that ends over here. And when you enter the site, there is a lower level parking. This lower level parking does not occupy the entire lower level. It occupies only a limited portion of it. The remaining portion of it actually has studio apartments on the lower level. So the fire department did review this proposal in a memo dated July 21st and noted approval of the plans as submitted. We actually wanted to see from a planning standpoint a circulation diagram for the site to see how fire trucks or emergency vehicles can go in and out of the site. The applicant has noted that the fire department has approved it, which is fine. However, we would still like to see what the circulation pattern looks like for the benefit of ensuring that the site has ample circulation for larger size vehicles. Now, the first level, which is the lower level, includes 8 parking spaces. This is the entrance and exit to the lower parking level. Now, the traffic impact study that was done for 210 diversion was done by the same traffic engineering group, Fleece and Vanderbrink. And they did the study with the preserves and 210 diversion put together as a single unit. So it is difficult to separate the two projects out, even though 210 diversion, the number of units, and therefore the number of trips generated in peak AM and PM hours is significantly less than the preserves, which has got 72 units in it. Once again, as in the case of preserves, there are no mitigation measures being recommended or any changes proposed to any lights or signals. So when the Planning Commission asks questions related to traffic and access along diversion, they will have to look at both of these projects as a single cohesive unit because the applicant has tied them together using the traffic impact study. Parking requirement based on 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom units. The site requires a total of 36 parking spaces. The site has a total of 37 parking spaces, 8 of them on the interior. There are 12 spaces within the garage and 17 spaces are outside in the exterior. There is a sidewalk proposed along the site's entire frontage on diversion. There is a lighting plan also for this project, and there are numerous types of fixtures that are proposed. One of the fixtures, as you will see in our review letter, is wall-mounted fixture on the north and south walls of the garage building. If you see, this is the main apartment building, and the smaller building is actually the garage building. And the fixtures that they had over here is to be mounted on the two sides of the building. This basically is more utilitarian style fixture, which works to serve its purpose. In addition to this, the elevation of the buildings shows a light fixture in the balcony of each unit. Based upon the luminaire schedule that is there in the plan, it is a shoebox style fixture which typically we find on the walls of commercial buildings and industrial buildings. It does not seem to match the proposed architecture or the residential style of the building. I would like the Planning Commission's feedback if you think the fixture style is an acceptable design for a residential building of this scope. As I previously mentioned, the site is pretty much completely built out. The fact that the applicant is adding the small rectangular piece actually makes the impervious surface area go from 96% down to 67.56%. So the main primary site, the applicant is proposing no changes to this piece at all. As a result, any open space that is being proposed as part of 210 diversion is not usable open space. The main parcel itself has got zero open space that is usable, and this is not being proposed for use in any way, shape, or form. Our suggestion was that the applicant possibly consider providing maybe a path or some kind of access to convert this parcel into an amenity without the need for removal of existing trees or significant grading that might create engineering issues. That is something that the applicant should consider. Otherwise, the proposal to add this parcel to the main 210 diversion is solely to reduce the numbers on paper and not really effective as usable open space for the site as a whole. The landscaping that is being proposed for the site, I will go to the landscape plan sheet. Most of the landscaping that you see, there is only one tree and some screening around the dumpster over here. There is one tree on this island. And all of this landscaping you see is actually located within the public right-of-way. So this will require City Council's approval and DPW approval in order to place the landscaping within the right-of-way itself. The ordinance has got a tree, or we do have a tree ordinance that requires preservation of trees on the site. The site is basically going to be clear-cut because the building and the garage and the parking lot pretty much occupy all of the parcel. So the main parcel is almost entirely going to be clear-cut. The plan proposes 7 trees as a replacement out of the 18 trees. 7 out of the 18 regulated trees being removed. 7 replacement trees will be on site, which is technically in the right-of-way. And 9 trees will be paid into the city's tree fund as presented by the applicant. The elevation for all facades of the building have been proposed. Our biggest concern was with regard to the elevation proposed for the garage. This is the garage building that the applicant is building on the site. All of the garage doors are very basic garage door. This is the facade that will be visible as you're heading west on Diversion Street. If you look at the applicant's 3D model that they will present, there are lots of trees and shrubs shown over here, making this facade look attractive. But the fact of the matter is, those trees and shrubs are located on the neighbor's property and may not always be there. Since this wall is exactly along on the applicant's property line itself, some amount of relief features need to be added in here. This is a brick wall. However, a lot can be accomplished by using brick in different colors placed in soldier courses, herringbone patterns, and other designs in order to provide some visual relief. As such, this particular wall is a single 134-foot long brick wall. The garage building, in our estimation, does not really comport with high-quality architecture as proposed. In the facade elevation that is shown over here, all the trees and vegetation that you see here are actually on the neighbor's property. If and when that property is developed or these trees are removed, the facade that's going to be visible is going to be the large blank brick wall. So we would like the applicant to consider enhancing the appeal of this carport-style garage building to make it more in keeping with the high-quality architecture they're proposing for the primary building itself. Now, the main building itself is to be constructed of, I shall go to the elevation. The main building is to be constructed of brick veneer in 2 colors, which is black and earth tone brown, and composite wood grain siding. And the roof style is a flat roof with metal coping. The applicant has got a rendering, an artist rendering of the building itself. The plan does propose 3 units in the basement level, which can be accessed from the lower level garage area, steps, and elevator area. And these units do have patios which are below grade. The proposed height of this building is 48 feet from grade, and the applicant has submitted a cross-section diagram basically showing the height of this building when compared to all of the buildings around it and the proposed preserves building itself, and showing how the proposed height is in keeping with the existing pattern of development in the area and what is recommended by the master plan for the area. As a special project, once again, 210 diversion also needs to demonstrate public benefit. And the cover letter from the applicant, which was originally written on July 19, summarizes the main feature of the project, most of which appear to be from the developer's marketing standpoint. So we asked the applicant to come up with public benefit that the city is getting. I mean, the developer has to look at the marketability of the project, but the city needs to see how it gets benefited by this project. And the revised narrative at this time states that the sidewalk connection along diversion extending to the overpass, allowing for access to Main Street via the new stairway, the new loft-style apartments contributing to pedestrian traffic and customers to downtown business, and contribution to the tax base and visually appealing site are the public benefits being offered by 210 diversion. Once again, they did submit a self-evaluation worksheet, and the prior submission, previously when they submitted this project, they had self-scored themselves as 14 on 20. However, based on my review of the previous proposal, the score was more in the range of 11 to 12 on 20. The applicant did submit an explanation for some of the indicators for which they had not been given points previously. However, there is no revised sustainability worksheet, so I have no idea at this point of time what points are assigned to the various indicators. So the next time the applicant revises the proposal and submits, it does need to be accompanied by the full sustainability worksheet and an explanation for every single indicator, so we know how the applicant determined whether they get points for a particular indicator or not. As in the case of preserves, this project too is before the Planning Commission. However, this is the first time you're seeing 210 diversion as compared to the preserves, which has been before you multiple times. So it's before you tonight for feedback, and if you would like the applicant to either revise it, if the Planning Commission finds the proposal satisfactory, you would go ahead and place it for consideration of public hearing at a next available agenda. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have on this proposal too.
Questions for Vidya? Rich?
Yes, hi, Vidya. I just
Yes.
have a question regarding the open space that extends into Rochester Hills. Can that
Yes.
be developed in the future?
I'm sorry, please, could you please state the question again, Mr. Kendi?
The open space that extends into Rochester Hills, can that be developed in the future?
I believe the parcel, I'm sure Nick can provide some additional information. I believe the parcel that is in Rochester Hills is challenged by severe grade, wetlands, and other environmental issues, which makes the ability to develop it very, very challenging. So I don't believe at this point of time it is going to be developed. And should the applicant include it in this proposal and show it as open space, it can never be built upon again. It will have to remain undeveloped as shown on the site plan.
Is it so challenging that it, could you put a path through it, or?
Yeah, it's 70-degree slope. It's the
Oh,
bank
so-
of the, you're not gonna
It's like right behind the gas station.
So we're not gonna get any open space benefit out of it, Vidya, the way it sounds?
get green. So you get green.
It's all forest right now.
Picnic tables, I mean, I'm just trying to think if there's a way to make it any kind of an amenity for this development. Okay, let's have the applicant come up.
Can I ask one quick question to
Please.
the city manager? Was that the project, the second one, where they came in and it was kind of a modern,
Yeah.
but then they decided not to do it because of
Yes,
COVID cost?
Yeah.
COVID.
yes.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I feel bad. May I reduce Vidya and pull up our presentation? Sorry, Vidya.
See you, Vidya.
No problem.
You'll still be there. If I-
Vidya is a TV star, though.
I'm tempted to jump and answer questions, but I think I'll answer those in time because there were certainly great questions asked, and I think we have certainly thought about all those and can address those here tonight. Again, and I guess you're not reading my font, so I apologize for the font problems there. Again, my name is Jim Epping. I'm a land planner from Clarkston, Michigan. We've done a lot of work in the city of Rochester here, and Joe LaChurco, obviously, and his team are excited and proud to be here. We thought it was important to really discuss these as a unified project, despite the fact that they're two separate applications. That really harkens back to the different teams that Joe's put together for the development of these projects. But suffice it to say, Joe's the leader of both projects, really will be the builder, the operator, and the long-term owner of those projects. So in terms of visual, what's really important to note, and I brought my pointer here if we can see, obviously we're looking at Main Street and the bridge over Main Street here. We've got the existing 4-story building that's right at the bridge going north towards Main Street with the Clinton River running down the side east to west here and underneath the bridge, obviously, and as it moves over to Mill Street. We're really looking at two parcels. The old Van Horn site is the larger triangular site, and then what we're calling 210 Diversion Street is tucked up against the hill and into the site. What I'd like to do here is show a video of really very detailed video that shows not only the architecture, but shows how these buildings will be put together, how they'll really create this new River's Edge neighborhood. And then I'll go through slides of each of the individual architectures, talk about some of the comments that we've heard tonight, and some that are have been brought up in the review letters. Please feel free to interrupt. I will stop this video a few times and I'll narrate it. There's no narration in it, but we'll get this going. It's just about a minute or minute and a half. So this is up on the bridge looking west. The building on the near right is the existing building with the proposed buildings beyond those. The preserves are the two twin buildings and then 210 Diversion on the left-hand side. Going down, you'll see that 210 is up against that right-of-way, and it has that larger right-of-way because of the curve. Here's what it looks like currently looking west into the Van Horn site, and then this is a version as I back up going towards the city, towards University, up Diversion, crossing over the bridge and over the river. What we are doing is we're connecting that sidewalk so now people will be able to safely walk right from the down area. You see there the sidewalk ends. We'll continue that into all the way to the Main Street Bridge as well as into our sites. Turning into the preserves, you'll see both buildings and what we've done, and we'll come back to that look, is based on the meeting from last time, is we've really opened it up so that the sunlight comes in, the views come in. You can see all the way down the river now as opposed to that building being turned as it was last time we were here. We'll see in a minute that our total combined site is 50% open space. That's combining both the preserves and 210 Diversion, and so it's a very, very green site because of the shape of the property and because of the various flood conditions. We focused all the development up front that really maintains very little infrastructure and impervious zone and creates really what we think is a very environmentally friendly development with 50% open space and green space. That's a vision there of that 60-foot access easement. If a road was ever to be developed in there, we would anticipate it to be a 21 or 22-foot driveway, essentially. There would never be a public road or any type of private road that would go through there.
That's an easement that you own?
We own the property. The adjacent property owner owns the easement. So
only
in other
to
words,
pass,
we grant
you
him
can't
an
build.
easement.
You can't build on any of that?
Can't build on any of that easement, no, sir.
Why is it two separate projects? Why wouldn't?
It's two separate projects because frankly, they started at two different times and there's two different investment groups. And so they're basically our LLCs where one group controls, Joe leads both and is the primary principal of both projects, but for different investment teams has one for the preserves of Rochester and one for 210 Diversion. So they're at the end of the day, separate LLCs and separate tax entities.
Is 210 for lease or for purchase?
So in total, all units will be for lease. And what we've done, and I'll go through it in a minute, but what we've done is
All
really.
three buildings?
All three buildings. So we've got 21 units in 210 and a total of 72 in the preserves of Rochester. So that's a total of 93. What we have done is very distinctly designed 210 different than the preserves. You know, if someone might say, why don't all three buildings just match? Well, 210 is really kind of a very, very cool eclectic building. It's going to have 10-foot ceilings, very high finished amenities. The apartment units themselves are going to be larger, anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. And
All
so,
with indoor parking of some sort?
an option of indoor parking. So on the 210 diversion, there's a total of 37 parking spots required or actually provided. 20 of those are interior, either in the garage or the 8 in the building, and then the balance would be exterior. So everyone would either, have that option to either rent a garage or park in the surface area.
Mr. City Manager, so is that Rendazzo? That's,
It's across the top.
Across the river going north,
That's them,
right?
but
Here-
the whole part, I mean,
All that grass is
All that, yeah.
Randazzo,
okay, so they are literally,
across the river from each other, yeah.
Here's the river right here. You can kind of see
That's the
that
trail,
dark line.
got the old trail there.
That's the northern trail, right, on the north side of the river. Right. So again, the preserves property is currently zoned, as Vidya had indicated, zoned industrial I-2, which is part of this chicken and egg thing we have with the new master plan. We've spent an awful lot of time since the August meeting where we listened and we learned. We spent a lot of time with the architecture, we spent a lot of time with the planning, we spent a lot of time with your master plan. And what I'm really proud to say is we understand, I think we understand the vision. And as we go through the details tonight, I feel strongly, and I think you'll see that we are implementing the vision of the master plan. We're consistent with the zoning, we're consistent with the, actually, we're well below the anticipated height of the master plan. We provide the right number of parking spots, we provide nearly 50%, I think we're at 47% total open space across all the properties. And so it really, I think, delivers completely on the master plan. I started talking about, and I'm jumping around a little bit, I apologize, but we started talking about, the master plan talks about the missing middle housing and housing alternatives. I talked about the apartments or the 4 leased residential units in 210 diversion. As we move into the preserve, those 72 are also 4 lease, and those range anywhere from 800 square feet up to just over 1,000 square feet. And so our price points on rents will be from a 1-bedroom in the preserve all the way up to really kind of a luxury 2-bedroom in 210. And so we've got about 4 different markets that we can address from a rental, whether they be young professionals, whether they be recent graduates, whether they be long-term residents who are selling their homes and just want to have a winter location in Rochester. And so it really creates, I think, what your master plan asks for is a cross-section of new types of housing in the city of Rochester.
so the second one, the 210, is more expensive than
Yes, sir.
the preserves?
Yeah, the finishes will be a little higher end. I mean, both of them will be beautiful. Great kitchens, nice closets, great windows and all those. 210 will have higher ceilings, 8 and 9 foot ceilings in the preserves of Rochester, 10 foot in 210, and so it'll just feel a little grander in some of those finishes. It'll have a greater ratio of indoor parking as well. Here's the site, and Vidya, I apologize, I should have sent you the color plan. I think it reads better. We thought it was important to place them both on the same plan. Obviously, they're technically 2 separate applications with 210 in this location with the separate garage building here. Here's the Main Street Bridge that we're right up against. The preserves, as we said previously, had the buildings one perpendicular to the street and one parallel. We've opened those up, and what that does is, as you saw in the video, is when I come in from diversion, it really takes my eyes right through not only to the pond, which will have fountains and such, takes it to the landscaping, and then what we don't see on here is there's a tremendous green corridor going all the way down the river, and so that opens up that view. We've also been able to detail this, not like a parking lot, although it does have perpendicular parking, but we'll have streetlights, sidewalks, landscaping, and trees, and so this starts to feel more like a street that I'm driving into rather than a parking lot. The other thing that we did is the previous plan, as Vidya noted, had an entrance to the garages, the interior parking on both ends. We've eliminated that, so the streetscape really just sees building and landscape, and we have the entrances on the backside of these buildings. We're looking at this as a campus or a neighborhood. Again, it's going to be under unified ownership, but I think the advantage there is it's unified planning from a landscape, from a circulation, from a trails and sidewalks point of view. We really are looking at it as a neighborhood or a district and adding to kind of, I don't want to say forgotten part of the city, but a yet largely undeveloped part of the city. What's great about it, obviously, is it's walkable. We're going to add an awful lot of people to the restaurants, to the shops, to the offices, but we don't anticipate adding any cars in the evening. So in other words, I can walk to the restaurants. I don't have to drive to the restaurants. So between our connection to the Main Street Bridge, staircase, and then the sidewalks going into town, we've got 92 people, 92 families that are able to walk into the restaurants and shops and banks.
So can I ask, I'm sorry, can I ask, maybe this is the city manager again, and I apologize. For the Randazzo project, is there entrance off First Street?
No.
It's off diversion as well?
Correct.
So you're gonna have, and we're just further,
Just north.
Yeah, on the other side of the
Go
river,
back.
probably another, yep.
so where would the entrance be for, there, right?
Right around there, yeah.
Here's the bridge right here.
Okay, so that's a lot.
Our traffic study took those into account, and I'll jump ahead to the traffic study. What the traffic engineers, some of really the best in the country, put together comprehensive, looking at all of the city of Rochester as well as the proposed developments. Our earlier one, version 1 of this happened during COVID. We've updated that now that the world's kind of gone back to normal, thankfully. Traffic light was level of service E, the worst condition, and it remains level of service E. In fact, indicating that we really have with the Randazzo development, no significant impact that would degrade that signalization at all. The suggestion to alter the timing was really just kind of a traffic engineering saying, hey, here's one way to solve it, not suggesting that we need to or frankly would even recommend to change that signalization, that timing for this project. It's not necessary. We're not having any impact. But they're saying, hey, you could improve that, but then you'd have, as a city, would have to think more regionally about all your traffic systems. So it kind of opens up a can of worms there.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Jim, if you don't mind if I interrupt you for a minute. So you have to remember, Van Horn's was an operating facility. There's 60, 70, 80 cars when they're a day. When the cement plant was there for quite a few years, Chris Piardi ran that plant. There were cement trucks going there all day long on South. They didn't have any good way to get out either, so they had to either go up the Second to Walnut to get out. So exactly, it is a kind of, we talk about South Street's the next frontier, but everybody forgets, if you talk putting what everybody would love, residential on the river, and take advantage of that gorgeous thing, you're still trapped on a 2-lane road. So the good news from a traffic engineering standpoint is the people that would be inconvenienced are basically the people on that site. If there was a light there that stopped the traffic at that traffic point, then you're blocking everybody on the road up. This is if you are trying to leave to go to work, you're on your own property. You're not stacking on the road. To come in, there's not a light to make a left into these properties. So you have to remember, you could have a plant, an industrial plant there, and you could have hundreds of people working there in the same
All
road
coming and going
configuration.
at the
All
same
coming,
hour.
exactly. So this is a dispersed, two things, dispersed hours of operation with people living. You know how life has changed now. You don't all go to work every morning at the same exact time like everybody used to. That's very important. And again, in the evening, why would you get in your car and go pay to walk a block? So with the sidewalk connections to get them to Main Street and up the alleys, staff is not worried about the traffic here because it's alternatives. It's a plant or it's a cement plant again or something that's gonna be more focused at certain times, hours of the day. So they have the right to use the property for whatever reason they want, but again, when you have residential like this, and they talked about maybe there's people that are living there just in the winter or in the summer. Again, minimal traffic compared to what could go on in a site that big that's zoned industrial. So just wanted to say that, yeah.
I know a few years ago, you talked with Rochester Hills and probably MDOT about changing the timing on that light.
Yeah.
And I don't think you were successful.
Correct. We talked about it to them again, but like Vidya said, it changes the whole time. The best you could get is 3 seconds out of it, and that's one car.
That impacts Avon and everything
Correct.
downtown.
Exactly. So the inconvenience would be the residents. And remember, we act like everybody's gonna go that route. You can go left out of here, go up to
a lot of
Walnut, to First.
Take
To
a
go
left.
north, if you're going west, you're gonna go down First Street. If you're going east, you could go all the way up to John R. Residential, no more trucks. The trucks will not be invading Bloomer and all the folks that go over to John R. So, again, there's a lot of ways to get here. It's not, you don't have to go here to the Virgin to go to Main Street. If you're going east, you're gonna go to John R. Just ride to
Yeah.
John R. and go up to Avon and get out. So there's a lot of different ways to get here. Same with Randazzo. His people will disperse 4 different ways, not just one way. So we kind of talk about the valuation is at Rochester Road and diversion, but that's only one of the ways out of here.
It's a long way from this point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the outbound. I mean, people coming home from, south.
Problem.
They're just taking a right turn. Yeah, it's all right turn, so it's not a big deal, but.
Turn right on red on that.
But I think it is good to look at this holistically, not just project to project, including Randazzo and everything, because it is adding a fair amount of units.
Yeah.
They already dispersing, it is what it is. but-
140?
Wow, yeah, 134 altogether,
Yeah.
both phases. Oh, well, no, 151 with the 17
If he does
townhomes
the
too.
townhomes,
Between the
Right.
two.
Remind me, is,
They can also go out Campbell.
yes. Is there a walkway on the diversion bridge?
There is on one side that's dead ended, and that's what they're talking about.
It's on the west side?
Correct, and then you can cross over.
There's a sidewalk on the other.
Correct. And we put the new flashing lights that are stop people now,
Okay.
so it's much
All right,
safer.
thank you.
You're right, it is on the west side, it stops right at the bridge edge, so our sidewalks
You'll
will
continue.
connect up into it.
And that'll be good.
You
And that-
mentioned a stairway up to the, are you gonna put a stairway up to the?
It's there.
Up to the bridge?
Yeah.
There's already a stairway there, but what we've committed to do is extend beyond our property and connect our sidewalks to the stairway.
The stairway's in front of the bank.
Yes, so you'll be able to
No
really
need
walk
for another one.
through the whole city.
Okay.
There's a side, or a staircase there, but you can't safely get to it, so we'll ensure that you can safely get to it.
Under the bridge.
Under the bridge. And this brings up some great points in terms of open space and circulation. We looked at this, and frankly, we just owned it at one point, and we talked about it at our last meeting. We had ideas of purchasing this property with the southern property owner, and that just never happened, and so this is a remnant under separate ownership that we do continue to own. Frankly, from a landscape architect point of view, open space to me is not only about usability and walkways and tables and benches, but it's also about habitat. And because of the green infrastructure here, we really think that there is value in this as open space from a natural habitat point of view despite it. What we are excited about is people from 210 really, we think, are gonna be drawn one of a few directions, either up to the stairs to the bridge and onto Main Street, up diversion and into the city, or onto this great new walking trail that we're constructing all along the river and then circulating through. And so there really is not going to be a distinction. If I'm a resident in this building or a resident in this building, I really think that, human nature is going to take me to the water. So their recreation and open space is going to be, A, getting into the city, or B, taking advantage of the river trails or crossing under the bridge and going to the larger trails. So
Where is the property that the easement owner, or the easement holder owns?
Mr. Chairman, that's immediately south here. So that easement takes him down and gives him access to this southern portion.
Does
which-
he have a good-sized parcel in there?
It's a decent-sized parcel. It has a lot of wetlands and low spots in it. It's really, I think in the past, there's been some landscape trucks parked on there. It's in Rochester Hills. That's your municipal line right there.
Can you drive over that green area there?
They
at Will?
couldn't,
Crook?
but Mayor Barnett's trying to buy that property for Parkland. It's at the bottom of Clover Point and,
Cloverport and
Childress.
and
And that is
Childress.
Mr. Kruk that owns it?
yeah, Mr. Kruk owns that. It's 90%
Hill.
non-buildable.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's an old dump site as
Jeremy
well.
lived literally right at the
Yeah,
top
I
of the
used
hill.
to I used to sled on it. It's like a 70% grade, and
Can
it's an
he
old
drive
dump.
trucks on that green lawn there to get to his property?
You'd have to have a formal driveway put in. It's an easement, it doesn't give him the right without paving. We don't allow it to be driven on grass, so he'd have to work out something.
It was fairly acrimonious discussions we had over the last 2 years, and so we were really careful not to impede it, not to put trees in its way. If that easement was to go away, we could, probably look to expand paths and trees in the future. But at this point, it's just going to be a beautiful green area that, no one's going to really think about unless there ever needed to be some type of access to that property.
Is that the only access to that property?
It is.
Yes.
And he knew it when he bought it, so.
So you really could never get rid of that easement because they wouldn't have another access?
There's nothing going to that street up above?
No, like I said, it used to be a dump, so there's an old road there, but there is a guardrail on Childress, a steel guardrail that doesn't allow
But
traffic.
it might be contaminated, an old
It
dump
is,
site.
I would assume it's contaminated.
What's the point of owning that?
So,
I mean, I,
to be honest, Mr. Kruk bought it, Mr. Kruk bought it, so Mayor Barnett could, they had a little feud going. It's a goofy.
There's
he
a
didn't-
They have a feud.
he didn't
there's a
pay-
reason, right?
He didn't
you do
pay
when you have
much for
money.
it. It's pretty useless.
In terms of the preserves individually, and this is in the packet and certainly in NVIDIA's review, but we are proposing, as we mentioned, 72 units. These are 5-story buildings, meaning that the first floor is interior parking. There's not a gate or a garage door on the preserves 2 buildings. It would be an open door at the rear of the buildings.
2-lane door.
2-lane door with 25 parking spots in both buildings. I guess we mislabeled the pages, but the buildings are identical. They're just mirrored or butterflied, but same floor plan, same parking plan. There's an elevator and a lobby on the first floor, and that would take you to 4 levels of residential above it. So the first floor is parking, second, third, and fourth, 5th floors are residential. The new MR zoning under the master plan envisions buildings, multifamily residential buildings like this in this area up to 6 stories. We're proposing 5 stories, so it's a little less than what the master plan would allow. The current M2 zoning would allow up to 8 stories, but I think that's being phased out as the MF is being, MR is being instituted.
And a lessee in 210 would have access to the amenities on the preserve
Yes, sir.
property, I assume in the lease, so they're not.
Yeah, I think there'd be some
trespassing.
type of operational agreement between the 2 entities.
Mr. Chairman. Regarding the height, a couple meetings ago, a comment was made that the condos on the east side of Rochester Road across from the bridge probably should have been taller because you can see the air conditioning units and other mechanical equipment on top of the roof. Will you be able to see any of the mechanical equipment on these as you're crossing the bridge?
I can go back and we can replay that video. We can make sure that those, and I believe that your ordinance. I can't pull up the full plans, but there is planned in there. I believe that your ordinance mandates that all HVAC has to be screened as well, so that'll certainly be screened. These are 5 stories, the buildings across the street.
You want to know from
is
up on the
4
bridge.
stories.
Yeah, when you're driving by and you're looking over, can you
You
see
have a
stuff?
rendering
will.
that'll show that?
I can go, Joe, go ahead.
And then likewise with the garage building, will there be any mechanical equipment on top of that?
Joe Lochurko, so the idea is 210 version, when you're coming down the bridge, has absolutely, if you look at the plan, the air conditioning units are on the back, and there's actual areas that are built into the building for us to get those. So there's no ACs on the roof. And the idea was 210 is 4 stories, so that kind of matches the other building across that's existing, kind of sets up that height. And then the building of the preserves behind it is the 5-story building. Also has in the back areas for the for the air conditioners to be,
But that's lower.
at grade level, not on the roof. So besides maybe a pipe or a vent or something like that, no air conditioners on the roof. Yeah, I don't like the air conditioners on the roof, so I'll let Jim continue.
And then likewise, the same would be true with the garage building, like I'm assuming the
So,
angle's
I'm
so
glad you brought
steep.
that up. So the garage building, the back of that garage building is literally, up against the hill. There's no
wall in
There's
there?
no way to, there's nothing you could do with that. You
Are you
could,
gonna have to construct a wall?
yeah, there'll be a
on the
wall,
slope?
right. Instead of doing a carport, it's a nicer building. We did actual garages. They have windows in the doors. And on that backside, it's literally from there, you could not walk up that slope. And you would have to hang over the bridge and look straight down to ever see it. You'd never be able to see that.
This is a steep slope going up to
yeah.
the bridge.
So that back wall, there's, really doing brick, it could be anything and you wouldn't see it, but we're doing it all constructed out of brick.
No utilities in the garage building?
Well, when you say that, I mean, with the electric cars coming, we've had a lot of
Other
conversations.
than that, but you're not gonna heat them?
No, but they're, I have to figure that out yet, so.
May have chargers and certainly have electricity.
That is a big question on all these, anyways, so, another discussion, so, yeah. But, all right, go ahead, sorry. Thank you.
I apologize, I didn't know that about the unit, so thanks for asking, thank you, Joe. In terms of the architecture, again, there's all new architecture from what you saw in August. The important thing is every unit has a lot of glass, has a patio on both sides. So these buildings, this would be a center hallway type building where there'd be a unit on both sides, so there's no really back of the building. Again, what we did in the front is we eliminated any garage doors and we're able to put a pretty extensive landscape into both buildings. By eliminating the building that used to go parallel to the road, we've created this more of a Main Street look. We were able to set this building back. This is the easement there, that 60-foot easement, and what that does is really become a really great landscaped and grassy front lawn.
And so those windows, those are the ones that video was talking about?
They are, and she was exactly right. These are set up because these are our bedroom units, and we are, kind of keenly aware of how the interior of the space works as it relates to the exterior. That's the bedroom, and I think most people, will put their master bed up against that wall with the windows over the top to bring in that daylight. So there wasn't an effective way to really make the interior functional and have larger windows there. We did try and offset it by having, large windows on the other sides of the building. We broke this up. We are proposing a monument sign on the lawn. We've also talked about, you'll see when we get to 210, it's got some really cool lettering on the building, and perhaps that's something that we could do on this building as well in terms of signage and addresses. There'll be two-tone brick as well as the other materials that were discussed.
What elevation is that?
This is the river is behind me, so this is looking at the side of the building with the front entranceway. So this canopy here, kind of hard to tell with the shadows, but this is a canopy that goes into the lobby, and there'll be a elevator and a staircase in there.
You have the north elevation, the river elevation?
This is, honestly, sir, I think that this is the back facing the easement, but it'll be exactly the same as what would be on the
So
river.
that's what would face the river.
This is what would face the river. So these first floor windows are open grates with no glazing, so open air into the parking area, and then obviously the residential units above.
So the bottom part is parking?
Yes, sir.
Are the balconies large enough for a chair? They look really narrow.
You know the dimensions of the,
They're, I think, 5'6" by 16 feet.
they're coming out here. So my
Probably.
Yeah.
little bistro table and
You could-
2 chairs, glass of wine.
Yep.
Are those all at grade units, or do they step as you go?
I think that's the elevation. They're all at grade. They do
Oh,
not
yeah.
step.
Okay.
Another look. This is back, so my back here, taking the picture, is at the pond and the fountain, so I'm looking out towards diversion.
Looking
Uh,
east.
So there is no parking, looking east, correct. There is no parking, perpendicular parking like this on the other end at diversion. It's just at the top of the pond there. And you can see here, those are those open areas into the interior parking spaces. In terms of 210, similar type ideas. Again, we have 21 residents. Joe talked about the grade here behind this. You know, it is, it would have been easy, I think, to do a carport here. What we've really said is, hey, this is, number one, it has keen visibility from both streets, looking right into it. It's a 4-sided brick building, really expensive building. It'll have 7 private garages, all with decorative garage doors with windows in the garage doors. Again, 21 units in here. What's interesting, I didn't mention when we were talking about the higher ceilings and whatnot, every unit in 210 has not only the bedrooms, 1 or 2 bedrooms, but they all have specific office spaces with this idea that certainly in all the buildings, a lot of people will be working at home, but we see this as kind of that more executive living where we might have some home offices here that would be more typical. So they're pretty spacious units. 14 1-bedroom, 7 2-bedrooms, again ranging from 1,000 square feet up to 1,500. We've got a total of 57 parking spots. I think 20 or 30 of those, I'm sorry, 37 parking spots, 20 of them, I knew I had my math right earlier. 20 are interior, 17 exterior. With the area itself in that Rochester piece, we're at 28% open space, but again, when we balance the whole site, we're at about 47% open space in total.
Vidya, you had a concern about the back wall of the garage, but hearing that it's up against that slope, is your concern still there?
Well, I think Mr. Lechurko addressed some of it, the fact that there is a slope to the east of the garage wall, but is the vegetation, my concern was more than development, is there anything preventing that property owner from clearing out the vegetation on the property? And is that wall not going to be visible at all when you drive west on Diversion?
That's MDOT's property, that's the right-of-way line for
That's
the
not
road.
maintained, I don't think.
Right, it's just a hill.
It's too steep.
It's a grass hill, yeah.
So it's not visible, Vidya, I don't think even for a pedestrian. You'd have to,
In that case, the concern regarding the wall is not there.
thank you.
The architecture, again, on this building is similar. They're certainly cousins, but different architecture. Just for some variety, I think that this building also has sort of a special place in the community because it's right at the terminus of Division Street as I'm heading south. It's really what catches my eye, and so it's deliberately meant to have really a beautiful northern facade. I love this green wall, which is on the eastern side, right by the entranceway. This is a grate that will have a vine growing up it with the address and the name of the building, which is the same on that green wall with some decorative architectural detail around it. This is the side looking west, so these are the balconies that would look west out onto the pond, down the river, down that greenway and that whole habitat area. There are 3, as Vidya pointed out, 3 lower terrace apartments. What's nice about these is they have full glass walls interior with a retaining wall, full patios outside. So even though they're in the terrace level, they do have plenty of sunlight looking west. There's that look we'll see coming down Diversion, heading south, looking up into town. As we mentioned, Mr. Chairman, you asked, this sidewalk will continue through that MDOT property and link right into that staircase going up the bridge. And so now
Nick, is there a sidewalk under the bridge now, but there is room to put one in?
Absolutely.
It's just a dirt patch.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we'll improve that all the way down. So, again, we appreciate, number one, Nick and Jeremy and Vidya's time. We've spent a lot of time. We've taken meetings from you guys before, but we're really proud of our progress and think that we're really making headway. Some of the feedback we got in the last meeting, although I went home a little bruised, benefited the project, I think, greatly. And we are requesting tonight that you answer any questions, providing any additional information. We are eager to move towards a public hearing, so should it be your pleasure, we certainly would appreciate a motion to schedule public hearings for both projects. We think it's important to consider them, kind of as one unit or at least in the same meeting.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Any questions for this applicant before we let him go?
Mr. LaChurko, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Eric.
I guess one question, that goofy right-of-way piece in the front there, is there any reason why the city wouldn't want to dedicate that to the property?
We'll just give an easement for landscaping. It's way more difficult to do that, because you have to go through a whole process, and there's probably a manhole there, to be honest with you, there's probably a reason. It's got a weird cutout.
Utility,
Yeah,
Yeah, so we'll keep it, but no problem. We can put it as a condition of approval if granted, for landscaping, not an issue.
fair enough.
So were the project to be approved, the council would seriously consider that?
Correct.
And then regarding the smaller building, what was it, 210, thank you.
210.
The one thing I was looking at was, there's only 17 surface parking there. The remainder's either under the building or in the garages for guest parking. And I realize you're meeting the requirement, but for guests that might want to come, are you at all concerned about, where they might go? I know there's a parking lot across the street. Is that
Exactly.
available?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so kind of like our downtown apartment buildings where they don't have any, we own the lot across the street. So
Pretty
there'd be a
good sized lot,
sidewalk,
yeah.
they could get on the sidewalk, cross at the crossing. So that's our lot, and Dual's got 9 spaces, and I think Bondesk has 18 that they use during the day, but that's our parking lot, so that would be a perfect overflow.
How many spots in there?
Oh,
50?
like, I think there's 54.
Yeah, it's
I think there's
significant.
54, yeah.
Okay, great. And then lastly, the meter room with gas and electric meters, it's always something, especially when we're looking at apartments, that is often an aftersight, or at least I've seen it as an aftersight, not that you guys would do that, but, and I know that I saw, on the other building, I saw, it looks like it's walled in, it looks like it's accessed from the interior.
It's correct, inside the garage.
I just want to be very careful that we don't have conduits running up the side, things that come out later, next thing you know, you're driving and you're looking at kind of a mess, so.
These, we'll double check on that as we go through permitting, and things like the light that video brought up in both buildings, I think are really, sharp points that we're eager to address, and we'll work with the planning commission, the building department to ensure things like the conduits, but also making sure that those lights are, match the quality of the building. Important thing to us is that they're downward facing lights and don't create hot spots.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, very good point, because on the Romeo building, they forgot the gas lines, and there's like a web of things. It's horrible. So very good point, and we keep that in our mind all the time. We want to see all the utilities. Screen them, you can put a screen around them.
Yeah.
But don't do that. That's like, we
Another
love
good
screening them,
example
but-
is Cedar Brook, by the way, which screened theirs on Parkdale very nicely.
Yeah, so you can do it, so that's a very good
Yeah.
point.
The last thing I'll say, I just want to compliment you guys. I think it was a great presentation. You guys put a lot of time and effort and money into the video and the renderings and everything like that, and I really appreciate that, because it presents very well.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, do you have any?
Yeah, so Mr. LaChurko is going to run both buildings. There's not another, even those different investors, it's still just invested in you, your company. So there's not going to be something broken off later on.
No, that I'm partners in both projects, and so I would be leading them, doing the permitting, the plans. I'm your guy. So if you want to know where the air conditioners are, I can show you where they're after the meeting. I have them all planned out. Conduits, we have spaces inside. I can't tell you how much time I've spent looking at every detail. From previous buildings that I've built, you learn each one, what you like, what you don't like, taking in the feedback that you guys give us and coming up with this. So I appreciate the feedback and
Joe, I think what the mayor's
Yeah.
talking about also is, correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, but in the end, the leasing company, the people that run it.
our office downtown
That's you.
at Second and Walnut, that would be the leasing office.
202
Yep.
Walt's where he's at,
Yep,
runs the
yep.
mall.
Okay, that was my question to
A
some
real
extent.
estate, Lotrico Realty, that's there at Second and Walnut would be the real estate company that you come see. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to also add that video, as it was very helpful, as like a non-professional business or building person, that was pretty helpful, I thought.
I
Thank
made
you.
it then.
That's all your
idea, right? Yeah.
To actual credit, that's the architect for the 210 building, who previously I hadn't worked with.
Who is it?
Joe's work. Roger Barrett, where's he out of? Rochester. Really talented, and it impresses me. A lot of architects will sub that out to, some really good tech guy. The fact that he knows the buildings that well and has the technology to produce it, tells me it's going to be a great building.
Okay. Christian?
Thank you for putting the presentation on. It was very helpful, and I was making some notes while you were talking, and I very much like the orientation of the buildings, how they're aligned versus to the perpendicular of one another. And I think we can all agree that the concept is good and the area is ripe for redevelopment. The one thing I have to go back over the next couple of weeks is I want to make certain that the style, the aesthetic, and the appearance of these buildings, because I know some of my colleagues had some concerns about the look, matches some of the other buildings that are existing, and more importantly, the Randazzo development over there. And I need to go back, and I was trying to, I didn't want to multitask and look at those dates, because I simply couldn't remember when we had those drawings.
Right.
But I am very in tune with what's there already versus what Randazzo is going to do, and then how is this going to look in that area. Now, I'm not saying you got to conform and you've got to change everything to match that. That's not realistic. But what I am going to do is I need to double check and make sure that your style isn't going to be in such contrast with what's already there.
Yeah.
And I just need some time to do that. Go ahead, Mr.
And I think that's great. And I think what would be very important, and I remember when I first came down, I told the mayor this 10 times. First time I came down the bridge to interview with James, I thought, remember, I'm a planner forever. So I thought Rochester was historic. Well, somebody in the 80s and 90s made a decision that from 2nd Street South, coming down the bridge, 2 different Rochester. So Bondesk, Angot, and Krosky-Lani are brick boxes with windows in them.
Yeah.
But they're a little better. Bondesk stepped it up a little bit. Angot's pretty pure, but it's a lighter colored brick. So then when we got First Street Lost, and Mr. LaChurco did those, that was kind of the edgy part. So when Randazzo came in, we said, so you have to merge between Bondesk and what we've got at First Street Loft. This is the next merge down. So you can see in that one rendering, when you see Bondesk, these are nicer than Bondesk. It's got a little more color contrast, a lot more roof line changes. All those buildings are flat, and these are not flat. So I think you'll be able to look up the renderings of Randazzo's project, and I think you'll see this is a merging of they set the northern border, Bondesk set the southern border, and these are kind of melding off together. So I compliment the team that put this together, because it's exactly what you're gonna see when you look at all the renderings. It's a mix of all of them. Because we had talked about, when we did Rewalt's property, they put the arches in and they made it look like the Mills because that's that style. But this rhythm was set below 2nd Street a long time ago.
Right.
And it's above Main Street. Remember, Angot is 3 stories on Main Street. That's just a brick square with a flat top, so.
But this is developing to be a great little segment.
Oh, it is. It's a neighborhood. This becomes a neighborhood, absolutely. And then someday we get to Mill Street and Suave, that will be a whole different look, because you kind of pull that through, like the village they had approved back in 2012, how cool that was. It was his own little village. So I like how you call this. This is its own neighborhood.
It
Those
is.
between Randazzo, these buildings, and Bondesk and everything, you've got your own little neighborhood going here, so that's
And to be clear, Bondesk is the building directly across the street?
correct, 210, yes.
Right at that corner?
Right in the corner.
Okay.
Mr. Salome still owns that
But
building.
none of them are unattractive. They've all.
No, they're very
Like you
nice. Mm-hmm.
said, they pulled it along, and now we have this.
And it's not right on Main Street.
Exactly,
Building
It's off to the
monstrosity.
side.
exactly.
I think some things that, not as an architect, but just as someone who appreciates, good building, what these will have that I think is gonna be really cool is they all have multicolored two tones
Yeah.
of brick. They all have that wood trim paneling, which has become really, really popular. It lasts forever, it looks great, and it looks, kind of crosses a traditional building with a little more of a contemporary edge to it, a little bit of a high-end chic type look. And so these are gonna look at first glance, they're gonna look, yeah, they're pretty, traditional buildings, but they're gonna have some of those elements, and also the ins and outs are gonna create some shadows, which I think adds a lot of characters.
Couple more questions, if that's okay.
Please.
If you don't mind. If you don't know the answer, it's perfectly acceptable. Did I hear that you're going to seek brownfield credits for these?
I'm
Is
gonna
that
look at
true
Joe
or
and make sure I get
no?
everything accurate.
Not that I know of. Go ahead, Joe. My understanding is when Chris Biari sold the cement plant, that was clean. That's a,
Correct.
what's-
The only
what's
one
the-
that we were looking at is the actual Van Horn, the building.
Okay.
The existing.
Unless
building
it's $1
that's
million
there.
or $2 million, it's not worth
it.
doing it.
Okay.
yeah, so.
So that's the only one.
So you're
that
looking
has-
at truck leakage and things like that over
Just
30,
being a
40
mechanic
years?
over the time.
But it is an
So-
advantage. It's
Yeah.
an advantage to clean it up. I
Yeah.
would give them,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and if we do apply for cleanup on that, it's, the state has money that comes from the state. So it's nothing that happens.
it would be a local brownfield, right?
Yeah.
Would be a state.
Would not be,
It would not be.
because
from the
it's
state.
carbon?
No, it's just, it's not, it won't meet our threshold. I mean, a building that's functionally obsolete, or it's dirty, but we wouldn't touch a building under $2 million, $1 million or $2 million, clean up bad dirt, not a building. So that's on the developer. But again, if there's funding they can get, that's great, so.
Number two is, presuming everything goes according to plan, you know, and you get a green light from people beyond this table here. Time for work, I mean, how long do you think it would take, start to finish? And I'll tell you why, because if there's another project that's gonna be built in that same area, and this one's gonna be built in that same area, our phones are gonna be ringing from the residents who live on that street, and they're gonna wanna know, how long is this gonna take?
If this was an approval today, 210 could probably go a little quicker than the preserves, but the permitting, being the river, the DEQ, that will take about a year to get all that
For
permitted.
210? For just for permitting?
For preserves.
For the
yes.
preserves.
Yeah, just to get all our kind of ducks in a row.
Because of the
So-
floodway and the
Floodway,
floodplain
right,
and
to
all
get
that.
all that.
So 1 year
Permitting.
lead-up time,
Yep.
and then for physical actual construction, what, 2 years?
No, actually, the preserves, the way it's built, would be at most maybe 18 months.
18 months?
Construction time.
Okay.
Mr. Hauser, if I may, with that, we had we're having a pre-construction meeting with Randy Asler, because we're gonna dictate where the trucks go. He has 350 trucks that have to come out of there. None of them are going downtown. They're all gonna go to diversion and out. And that can be done within a 3-week period. So we're gonna really monitor that, because you're right. All construction traffic is gonna come in off of Main. So we're not gonna use our local streets, not First Street.
And then I'm not gonna ask you to divulge trade secrets, but if you had to estimate anticipated rents for these units, what do you think ballpark-wise?
Oh, well, I would think the preserve's gonna run from 1,800 to 3,500, and 210 will be from somewhere around 2,500 to 4,500.
All right. That's all I have. No further questions.
Thank you, sir. Anything else for us?
Chairman?
Yeah, no problem.
Vidya?
Chairman, I do have someone on the
hi,
phone
Rose.
ending in 651. Would you like me to let them speak?
Yes, please do. Good evening.
Hello,
Hi, could you identify yourself?
this is Jane Turner on Parkdale.
Hi, Jane, how are you this evening?
I'm good.
Good. What
But
do you
I
have
have
for us? Go ahead.
The project looks great. I'm still concerned about the traffic, but the address is driving me crazy. Tonight, they were addressing it as 210 diversion, which is great. I still don't understand why 100 South Street is in the mix. South Street ended at the bridge. Diversion picked up on the west side of the bridge. That's number one question.
I can
Now-
answer. The county's got it as South Street and diversion separate, so it's, the county sets the addresses, so that's what the
So
address is.
that's what the
Well,
register
I've
of
been here
deeds
since
is.
1954. Can any of you say that? And in 1954, the west side of the bridge was diversion. Not division, sir, diversion.
It's not anymore.
So,
It is what the
well,
county
you're still
says it is.
referring it to a diversion.
Jane, we have to refer to it, what Oakland County tells
Right,
us.
so Oakland County addressed the cement plant as South Street and 210 diversion as diversion. So that break is right at that property line, so.
So that's
we have
the
to go by
addresses
county.
on those tax parcels. and
Correct.
We can't
Okay.
address that.
I'm sure at 5, I wasn't advised of property tax.
That's the problem.
Anyways, now, when I was down there the first time when this was presented, I think about 10 years ago, I presented a floodplain map. Now, is that retention pond supposed to take care of the flooding?
I can answer
Go
that.
ahead, Nick.
Yeah, the detention pond takes care of the on-site detention at 100-year back-to-back storms for their site. And they have to work through Eagle, that's what Mr. LaChurch talking about, which they've already had preliminary meetings with our engineers and their engineers. So there's 500-year floodplains, there's 100-year floodplains. They have to balance all of that. But on top of all that, they have to detain their own water before, and then restrict it at an agricultural rate to get it to the river. So that's heavy engineering. That's why Mr. LaChurch was talking about that process will take a little longer than just 210 diversion, where they'll just store it under the ground. So, yeah, we've had new CLOMARs and LOMARs, which are the actual documents where the elevations have changed over the years. Mr. Randazzo went through that. It took him a year and a half to get through that process. So we're all very familiar with it, and it will be respected.
Okay, and that retention pond, from what I think I heard, is that it's going to be unfenced,
Yeah, unless somebody has.
and you're going to have families living there?
We have a pond at City Hall that's 8 feet deep that's not fenced. Not all ponds have to be
The
fenced.
code doesn't require it, Jane.
Right.
Yeah, but you don't have how many families living there either.
Yeah, it's.
Code,
it's-
whatever the code says.
It's a concern, but we follow the code, and it's not a concern.
Okay. And the brownfield, it's going to be cleaned up before the construction starts?
Yes, it would have to be.
Okay, and just as a point of correction, the cement trucks went under the bridge onto South Street, up diversion to Rochester Road before there was a light. They didn't go up
That's what I said.
north on diversion to Wilcox and then cross over onto Main Street.
That's what I said. They all went, there were many trucks coming in and out of that Main Street there, absolutely.
I don't think the city would have permitted them to go.
Not on local streets, no.
No.
Okay. Now, the west bridge, the west side of the bridge that has the walkway, and under the bridge, there's a walkway on the south side. There is no green space there. I mean, it's a cement walkway. What is going to be done to help pedestrians there to get
You mean
through
under
safely
Rochester
without
Road, under Main Street?
the diversion and South Street connection? There's a bridge there under the bridge on the south side of what I say is South Street diversion.
Yes.
Is there's a sidewalk there, but there's
not a
that
sidewalk.
is a 45-degree angle going into that curve. What's to prevent anybody from going over the curve and hitting a pedestrian?
Yeah, it'll be treated the same as any sidewalk, have a ribbon of grass and then a sidewalk 5 feet behind the curb, so.
There's no room.
There's room.
The sidewalk backs up to the street.
There isn't a sidewalk under that bridge on the south side. Now, if we're talking
Okay,
about
I'll
the same
drive it
spots.
again, but I've driven it many times,
Is
but I
this
think
gravel?
you should look at it.
We
Absolutely.
will do that for sure.
Because okay,
Yeah, we'll make sure it's safe.
all right. All
Thank
right.
you, Jane, for
And
calling. We appreciate it.
And I have not been receiving my notify me of meetings and so forth. I don't know who's preventing it. I get it for the city council, but I don't get it from you guys anymore. So I would hope you would look into that.
We will do that.
And I hope I'm not the only one.
Jeremy will look into it tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you very much. You guys have a good evening.
Thank you, you too, Jane. Thanks for calling as usual. Good night.
Okay. Good night.
Thank you, sir, for your presentation. Back to the table, commissioners. I'm just say from the chair that I'm pleased. When I think about looking over that bridge a million times at the Van Horn site and the dilapidated trucks and all, and then I remember the concrete plant, and that was that was an incongruity to see that in this town. And I'm very pleased with what you proposed here. I think it's beautiful. I see it as a terrific area for people to move into the city, and I think, yeah, I think you're on the mark. I think you're on the mark.
No, I don't.
So with that before us,
Just one
Christian.
quick question, and I'm not trying to, is there any issue with the addressing? I don't, okay, that's all I've got, thank you.
It's tax parcel.
That's, I
It's-
guess I
yeah.
wasn't sure if there was a significant issue with that, so that's fine.
No. If anyone's interested, we need two motions, one on each project, to set a public hearing. And I'd ask Joe, are you ready for a public hearing? Our next meeting is probably in January, first Monday in January. That would be appropriate for you, that works? Okay. Anyone want to make a motion on, first is 6B, the preserves, to set it for a public hearing?
The only thing, Dennis, is we do want that sustainability report, though, is that true?
They have to be there. Video will insist on that. The package
Okay.
has got to be complete, or
Understood.
they won't put it on the stage.
Chairman McGee,
Yes, ma'am.
Chairman McGee, if you could please make a motion that says it will be placed on the next available agenda, because January 1st is a Monday and we have Christmas vacation, so it depends on when revised plans are turned in. I'll have to review and get it to the packet. Technically, I'll have to get it for the packet by Christmas Eve.
And that
which
meeting
I don't
is
think
what,
is going to
January
happen.
8th? Is
So
that
if
the
you could
first
please
Monday?
say next available agenda, I'll do my best to review it.
Okay,
So on last Friday, I got the schedule for the upcoming year.
Yeah.
And that was going to be, miscellaneous.
but the first Monday in January
Okay.
is the 8th?
The first meeting in January would be January 2nd, which is a Tuesday. That's-
But we're gonna be closed that day, so it won't be that, we'll talk about that
The
after,
next-
but yeah, video, it'll be later. We can't do it on the 8th because that's council meeting, so we're gonna have to jock around January a little bit. It's kind of goofy.
So okay, you'll let us know when that.
But I think she's right, say next available, and then we'll let
That's
Mr.
fine.
LaTrico know when we get it
That's
set.
fine. Okay, anyone open for making a motion on 6B?
I'll make a motion to set a public hearing for the preserve development, item 6B, at the next available meeting.
Is there support?
So we gotta find the time in January.
Support.
Supported by Rich. Any other discussion on 6B? The roll call, Jeremy?
McGee,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Bixson,
Yes.
Kenjuk,
Yes.
Lord.
Yes.
Okay. On 6C, this is 210 diversion. Again, consideration to set a public hearing, next available meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Lohr makes the motion, support.
Set a public hearing for 210 diversion.
Rich, you're going to support
6C.
that one also? Supported by Rich, okay. Any discussion? The roll call.
McGee,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Bixson,
Yes.
Kenjuk,
Yes.
Lord.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good luck, gentlemen. We'll see you at the next available meeting.
Enjoy the holiday season.
Thank you. Same to all of you. All right, number 7, miscellaneous.
So Jeremy and Megan have been working on dates, so we should, in December, we try to set the year.
Yes.
Because of January, it's a little wonky here, so to make it
No
easy.
second meeting in December?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there's never in the fall, so,
Okay.
in the winter. So standard meetings first Monday in February, March, April, May, June, July, August, and September. September's a Tuesday because of the holiday. So everything's standard except for January. So I'm looking at my calendar, and council meeting's the 8th. We're closed for City Hall. Instead of doing Friday, Monday, we did Monday, Tuesday. So that's not gonna work. So my suggestion would be, if you wanna push the planning commission meeting till like Thursday, January 4th, or even bump it another week later to the 11th, gives more time. There's nothing in right now. That might give Vidya even more time if we did the 11th, which is a Thursday, if that's possible, because I'm looking at my calendar and there's no other meetings that night.
Yes, please, because I have to do 4 review letters, Nick. I have to do sustainability evaluation reviews for both projects and the special projects review. So it's 4 review letters
Does the
January
11th give you
11th would be
enough time?
perfect.
Is it 11?
January 11th enough time?
Yes, I will make it happen.
So why don't we do that? We would do January 11th, and then if we could put this in the record, February 5th, March 4th, April, you read them, it's pretty small writing there.
And then- And Jeremy, can you send out an email?
Yes, we'll do that, yeah.
April 1st, May 6th, June 3rd, July 1st, August 5th, September 3rd, October 7th, November 4th, and December 2nd.
And right now, we would not have a second meeting scheduled because we'll be done with the master plan, so.
As needed.
As needed, correct.
Correct.
If we could have a motion to that, adopt
We
that.
have a
Ken.
motion to adopt that schedule. It was just stated.
Motion.
Moved by Christian. Supported by the mayor. Any discussion? Roll call.
McGee,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Vixen,
Yes.
Kenjuk.
Yes.
Lloyd.
Yes.
Okay. Nick, what else you got?
So Mayor talked about, Mr. Hauser is now on as a councilman. Congratulations to him.
Thank
He is
you.
now our city council person. Thank you, Mr. Sage, for everything that he did for his tenure on Planning Commission. He talked to the mayor, and he's going to go on to finance and some other committees. So that way, Mr. Hauser could stay on here. So there will be an opening. The mayor would accept applications that people that are interested. If you know folks that are like-minded, that's how we've got a lot of you. It's a great board. There's a lot of, you have your, hand on the pulse of the city on this board. This is a great board. So we just wrapped up, obviously, an incredible couple of weeks. Unfortunately, the rain for the parade, but Lanyap, if you got there, oh my. So we just set the
Where
standard.
did you bust those people in?
No.
Where did they all come from?
So there's a way, so we had drones flying, so when the mayor was up there talking, I'm on a phone with the police chief standing next to me, we were watching the bridge, so we had to have the bridge cleared for the fireworks, because they're gonna be shot over the bridge, right? So with all the drone shots, Anthony Maggio is like a state recognized drone guy, so he's up there flying that, so we were all coordinating, but we took snapshots, so you can do a calculation from, we knew it was 1,320 feet from Second to University, the width, wall to wall. So there's 34,000 people just on Main Street. Then everybody in the restaurant. So there's 50,000 people here. Somehow, we had no complaints on parking. They were everywhere, and they dispersed very nicely. We opened the road at 9:10, and we were gonna keep it closed till 9:30. MDOT was ecstatic because we had no issues. Nobody called them screaming. We were gonna keep it a surprise. A couple of us knew about the fireworks, but the ladies at the DDA are like, the worry, if you've been to Caroling in the Street, when we shut down Main Street, it doesn't look like anybody's there. Even though there'd be a couple thousand people, it looks weird. So they were like, we want to make sure people might come. A lot of people don't like being crowded on the sidewalk like that. It's a little bit intimidating. If you have a stroller or a handicapped person in a wheelchair, you can't move. So myself and my wife, we walked through that 3 times while the mayor was up on the stage, actually. And I have never seen so many people smiling with strollers.
Everybody was happy.
So now that's the standard. And the fireworks, I think, are gonna be the standard. So it's like, we already got, John Fox already stepped up and says, I'll pay for the fireworks. So I think we got that covered. Now, he stood on the stage and was speechless. He got a little intimidated, so he looked around, he's like, I've never seen anything like that. And you said the same thing, Mayor. It was like,
It's like Times Square.
it was like a mosh pit. It was, but there's room with the strollers in the street and people in wheelchairs, and it was amazing. And Festival of Trees broke the record for how much money they sold at that weekend. The parade, unfortunately, it rained on them, but everything went great with the Chris Kringle Market. So that's a heck of a couple-week run. Now it's caroling in the streets, PJs and pajamas. There's a couple more things to go on yet, but so right today, wrapped up, Wall Street Journal was in town, and they're doing a story. They called the historic people in the federal agency and said, we want an example of a town that is bucking the trend. We want a small town, but not too small, that somehow they're not all, they're boutique. They're not getting all the mall people in there, and they're surviving. They have a good occupancy rate. So this guy knew Christie, called her and said, will you talk to them? They talked to us on the phone, and they sent a reporter was here for 2 days just taking pictures and video and stuff. Now they have 10 days to interview people. They wanted people that have been here a really long time, like Bill Cruz and Roger Knapp, and then they want new people that are involved in the city and electeds. And I don't know everybody they're talking to, but they're going to do a story about how this town is bucking the national trend of struggling.
Wall Street Journal. Unbelievable.
That's pretty cool.
That's
And then we got voted, what, the top, yeah, number 12 in the world, I think, or 23 in the world. We beat Paris for the Christmas cities. And then we just got number 6.
Safer than Paris.
Yeah, exactly. And then we got number 6 in, Chewy dog stuff you get online.
Yeah.
Chewy just voted us as the 3rd best, no, one in every single state, one city in every state got picked as the most dog-friendly for taking your dog for the experience with the lights and not overwhelming him, and they picked Rochester. So we're the only city in the state that they recognize for that.
So next year we'll have 1,000 dogs.
Just not in the cemetery, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Not in the cemetery.
So anyway, all that, so kudos to police, fire, DPW, CERT, everybody.
And Christie.
And Christy and Jen and Taylor, I have no idea how they pull all that off. So they have a lot of volunteers. It's wonderful. So last thing, so I talked to the mayor about this. I got a call from Michelle Bakun at Eagle. And she said, so we got more funding than we thought for brownfields. So Merry Christmas, here's $1 million. You guys pick who you want to help incent a project. It's like, seriously? So we already got $1 million for the elevator grant. So it's nothing to us. $1 million for Rewald's first project. Then he took a $1 million loan that he already paid off. And then, so this next $1 million. So we talked about it, the mayor and I talked about it, and staff talked about it. So we thought, we always want to try and incent things that we really, really want that are tough to get over the top. So guess what that is? That's Solaronics. So we made a phone call to Solaronics and said, because their cleanup's 1.7 million on top of everything else. And I had met with them about 3 months ago, and they were talking about, okay, you don't want us to design it to RT, you want us to design it to RM1, we'll rezone it, but it's still, the numbers just don't work. So
That should make
ran
the
it by
numbers work.
DEQ, they're like, perfect, because it's by a river, it's dirty, it's an antiquated
Oh, yeah,
factory,
it's perfect.
perfect credentials. So we talked to them last Thursday. They're in the final stages of drawings. They met with the neighbors once already. They're meeting again. Looks like they have full.
That
I'm gonna
same
say-
developer
Yep, same guys, and they're stepped down.
coming in
to
at RM2.
RM1 density. Yeah, so it's 43 to 45 units, brownstones, for sale product with 50-foot setbacks on all 4 sides. That's way more than RM1 or 2 requires, and it'll just be brownstone for sale units, and they're beautiful. So I think, knock on wood, they'll be back here hopefully in January, or
Many
February. 2.5.
Okay.
So it's exactly what we want.
Just like
Parking
a,
underneath.
Parking in the front, so they can work it out just
So
like
it'll have
regular
that
town.
brownstone appearance. Oh, my God.
What was the last, what was it, 80 units that they proposed last?
They started with 134, then,
Yeah.
then 88, and
Because there's a
then
lot of residents.
4
up
stories,
north.
5 stories, yeah. Now so everybody's pretty excited, so hopefully we'll see them
And it will
soon.
be shielded from the road. You won't be
You
able
won't
to
even be able to see it,
any
yeah.
of them. It'll just drive in and then open up to a small neighborhood.
Yeah, and off the trail, 50 feet off that trail with a buffer, it's like, couldn't ask for anything better. And they're excited. That $1 million is enough to make them make the deal, so hopefully you'll see them soon, but we'll see.
good stuff.
That's it.
Very good, very good. Anything else from the council or the commission? Nothing.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas,
Happy New Year.
everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Christian,
Christmas.
congratulations
Thanks
on
you.
making it.
I
I'm
appreciate
glad you're
it.
staying with us.
No, this is the place to be.
Mr. Mayor is the new mayor. Congratulations
Thank
to you.
you, thank you.
Glad to have you, absolutely glad to have you with us for another year.
No.
The only thing, business, Nick, that we have to do is we have to elect officers again next.
For good point, at the first meeting
Yeah.
in January.
In January.
So he can stay on as vice chair if
Well, that
if
was,
you like.
I
The mayor
asked
me, yeah.
the city manager, can he? and
We were
the-
just looking at the act, which I brought here tonight. It only says that you
Chair.
cannot be the chair.
Right.
So that's the only thing that's specified.
So Attorney Crowd was checking on that, and I believe it was exactly what you just said. The chair can't be a councilperson,
No.
but the other officers could be.
So. if
But
you
we'll still
would-
have to reelect the officers.
You have to
here.
reelect the officers.
And we
If
have
you
to
would
have a
put
new
that on.
A new secretary, because
Yes.
Councilmember Sage.
Was the secretary, correct?
Yeah.
We'll do that
So
in
put
January.
that on early on the agenda next time,
January,
first
okay.
thing, and we'll get that out of the way.
Okay, so if anybody's interested, talk to Chairman McGee.
Okay.
Text him at night, yeah.
Thank you, everyone, and
Thank you.
have a great holiday.
Thank you, everyone.
This meeting is adjourned.